Good morning. I think I'm live. Give me 1 second, refresh my YouTube, and move my microphone, which is probably going to knock my camera over because that's how these things go. 1 second. All right, there we go. All right, let's wish me luck. Let's see. Don't move, camera. Hey, look at that. It worked. All right. Good morning. Oh, boy, we have a lot to talk about. The hearing, well, not hearing, Chad's arraignment is going to start in about 30 minutes, and we'll bring that to you live on the screen. But let's take this time right now to catch up on all the news in the case. There was a new filing this morning, so we'll get to that in just a minute. Today, we're going to see Chad being arraigned on the new charges. So why don't we start there? All right, let me put the charges that we're dealing with for today's arraignment up on your screen. Let me find my window. The charges. All right, here we go. This is what we're going to be hearing about today. Chad is being arraigned on the charges of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception for the death of Tylee Ryan. Chad Daybell was indicted on the charge of first-degree murder for the death of Tylee Ryan. Chad Daybell, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception for the death of J.J. Vallow. Chad Daybell, indicted on first-degree murder for the death of J.J. Vallow. Chad Daybell, indicted on conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in the death of Tammy Daybell. And Chad Daybell, indicted on the charge of first-degree murder in the death of his wife, Tammy Daybell. All right, Chad also has 2 charges for insurance fraud related to life insurance policies that he had on Tammy Daybell. So those are the charges that he is going to be arraigned on today. Today is a big deal. All right, today is the anniversary. 1 year ago today, what were we all doing? Most of us, anyway. Most of us were sitting here a year ago watching Nate Eaton in a helicopter flying over Chad's yard as many crime scene investigators descended upon the yard. It was that was a rough day because a lot of us had really hoped, beyond any hope, that the children were safe somewhere in a bunker or staying with some people from their religious group or something, and that we would see them again. That day, that was it. That was the end of that hope. We watched Nate arrive on the scene. We saw blue tarps being laid out. We saw the blue tents being set up. We saw dogs running around the yard, and it was like, oh no. It turns out we were right. The children were located in Chad Daybell's yard 1 year ago today. Chad Daybell was arrested originally later on that morning when he got in his car and tried to drive away from the property. They promptly stopped him and took him into custody. He's been in custody ever since. So what's happening today is the same thing that happened last year after his arrest. This is his arraignment. He will go before the judge. They will read the charges, or they may waive and not read them out loud, and he will enter his plea. And then they'll begin to set other dates like pretrial conferences and all that good stuff. So everything that we've been dealing with for the last year on the conspiracy to conceal evidence charges now begins for murder and conspiracy to commit murder and the financial fraud charges. So that's what's happening today for Chad. Please give a thought to all of the law enforcement officers that were there last year. This is the 1 year anniversary for something that was also traumatic for them. Let's keep that in mind as we go forward today. But finally, Chad is going to stand up and begin to face the music for these murder charges. So there you go. Emily Flotilla, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate that. And thank you for the super sticker. That's adorable. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Emily. Oh, so yeah, first-degree murder charges for JJ, Tylee, Tammy. Conspiracy to commit murder charges for JJ, Tylee, Tammy. And 2 financial fraud charges. Good. It's about time. So, yeah, this is the next big step on the search for justice for all of these victims. So, here we go. There was another filing this morning. And I want to put that on the screen because this is a big deal. Everyone's talking about this. Lori Daybell is incompetent to stand trial. We saw the order to stay from Judge Boyce recently. And now we have this. This was just filed this morning by Rob Wood. So let's read through it a little bit. Explains a little bit what's happening. Okay. This is the order for commitment. because Lori Vallow lacks the fitness to proceed or competency to stand trial. So on March 8th, the court entered an order for competency evaluation pursuant to the 18211 in this case. Thereafter, the court and the parties received the completed psychological assessment, which determined that the defendant is not competent to proceed. The state advised the court that it may contest the findings, and the court scheduled the matter for a hearing on June 16, 2021. On June 4, 2021, the state filed its withdrawal of contest regarding the 18211. Therefore, having considered the evaluation and there being no objection from the state, the court finds the defendant lacks fitness to proceed in that the defendant is incapable of assisting the defense of this case, and the court finds that the defendant does lack the capacity to make informed decisions about treatment, and the court finds that the defendant is not dangerously mentally ill, as defined in blah, blah, blah. Therefore, it is ordered the proceedings in this case are suspended, except as provided in blah, blah, blah. The above-named defendant is committed to the custody of the Director of Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, pursuant to Idaho Code, yada, yada, for care and treatment at an appropriate facility for a period not exceeding 90 days. The Fremont County Sheriff shall transport the defendant to and from the facility. An evaluation of the defendant's mental condition shall be performed at the time of defendant's admission to the facility, and that a progress report shall be prepared on the defendant's mental condition. This progress report shall include an opinion as to whether the defendant is fit to proceed, or if not, whether there is a substantial probability that the defendant will be fit to proceed within the foreseeable future. If at any time the director of the facility to which the defendant is committed determines that the defendant is fit to proceed, such determination shall be reported immediately to the court. If during a commitment under this order, a defendant who has the capacity to make informed decisions about treatment refuses any and all treatment, or the only treatment available to restore competency for trial, the director of the facility shall immediately report such refusal to the court. Each report shall be filed in triplicate with the clerk of the court, who shall have copies delivered to the prosecutor and defense counsel of record. And if the defendant escapes from custody during his or her confinement, the director shall immediately notify the court and the prosecuting attorney and the sheriff. So that's what's happening now. Goodness. Hold on one second. Let me just check. I'm checking to make sure we're not missing anything from the court. We are not. All right. So Lori is incompetent. She's now been committed. She will have to go to a mental health care facility and be treated for up to 90 days. All right. At that point, they'll reevaluate her. If she has not been restored to competency, they may do another round of treatment or whatever, and they'll discuss it then. So we've probably got 60 to 90 days before we hear anything about Lori Vallow. So there you go. I know a lot of people are convinced she's faking. She certainly has a history of being incredibly manipulative and very good at it. So maybe she is, maybe she's not. I don't know. At this point, I trust the judge. I think Judge Boyce is pretty fair. I think Judge Boyce is pretty smart. I think he's well aware that people can fake this kind of stuff. So, whatever. But let her go and get some treatment, and then we'll see what happens. All right. And please no calls for violence in chat. All right. Let's not do that. Let's be a little bit more, calm. Yeah. Don't call for violence in chat. So the Narcissist Guide Talking Narcissism. Hi, nice to meet you. Says Lori Vallow is a super narcissist. I don't disagree. So, yeah. All right. So we have Lori going to a mental health care facility. This does not state which facility, although a lot of people are assuming it's Blackfoot. We don't know that for sure. It's possible. It's not going to be summer camp. All right. Don't think she's going to be sitting outside in the rose garden doing puzzles all day. It's not going to be a vacation. She's not going to be happy and having a wonderful, happy time. And there's a fly. Goodness. So yeah, it's not going to be pleasant, but the goal is for her to go there and receive treatment, whether it's pharmacological, therapeutic, or whatever, so that she can become competent again and take part in her defense, understand the proceedings against her, and face these charges. So hopefully that will happen quickly. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. But today is about Mr. Daybell. Mr. Chad. Do you guys think that Chad is going to be all happy, smiling, smirky today? In his initial appearance that happened last week, he was all smiles. He was chuckling. He was, yeah, Judge. That's not okay. Hopefully, he will have reined that in, because if he thinks it's funny, I don't know what to do with that guy. Y'all think that he will be? He'll be laughing and chuckling. Yeah. Do you think that he is doing that because he genuinely doesn't understand the severity of what's going on? Or do you think it's like a nervous thing? Or do you think he's like, hey, I'm out of my cell. Haha, I get to be in court today. Hee hee. Either way, this guy, I'm telling you. So I really hope that he is not chuckling today, especially today. A year ago today, the remains of two beautiful children were found in his backyard. This man has nothing to be laughing about. But that's Chad. Checking on chat. Yep, the dates in the affidavit. Yep, we'll have to go through that. We did go through the information about these charges that was released by the prosecutor's office. There's some very interesting facts in there. All right, there's some, goodness. Blocking some people. Jess Nelson. Hey, Jess, how are you doing? Jess is not with me today because she is out and about doing stuff out in the world. So I miss you, Jess. I hope you're doing okay, and hopefully you'll be back soon. I did have slow-mo enabled in chat, and chat is still flying a little bit. Let's please remember to keep the chat violence free. Come on. All right. So if you have any questions about what's going on, feel free to throw them in chat. I will try to answer them as best we can. The hearing should be beginning in about 20 minutes. So let's see. Let's see what we got for comments. Amber says, the fact that the state isn't going to contest on the 16th gives a lot of credence to the fact that she is incompetent and not faking. Otherwise, the state would have brought an expert to contest. Yep, Amber, the state did bring an expert. And Rob Wood says that in his filing. Actually, let me pull that up for you so we can look at it. Where is my withdrawal filing? What happens, the way Idaho works anyway. All right, let me put this on the screen. 1 second. We can talk about why Rob Wood is not contesting. The way it works in Idaho, all right, the court appointed a licensed clinical psychologist who qualified with the state laws governing that to do the initial evaluation of Lori. All right. And that person found that Lori was incompetent to stand trial. All right. And that was produced to Rob Wood. And Rob Wood initially was going to contest that finding. But in Idaho, that doesn't automatically mean that Rob Wood gets to do another actual evaluation of Lori through the psychologist. What happens is Rob Wood's expert had to look at the report from the court-appointed expert and find fault in the report, fault with the testing procedures or the protocol that was used or some sort of fault with the report, right, to show the judge that there was cause that maybe this report wasn't accurate, there was problems with it, something like that, and then they could contest it and go forward possibly with another evaluation. Rob Wood's expert did not find anything arguable in the report, so that's why they are not contesting it. So let's read this real quick, just so you know what happened here. So the state of Idaho, by and through the Madison County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, acting as special prosecutor for Fremont County, hereby informs the court that the state has reviewed the 18-11 evaluation and report of defendant Lori Vallow Daybell and corresponding data provided by the court-appointed examiner with the state's own expert. Based upon said review, the state withdraws its contest to the 18-11 evaluation report and does not object to the court's determination of competency on the basis of this report. The state further does not object to a medical physician's evaluation and diagnosis of the defendant with a corresponding treatment plan for the purpose of restoring the defendant's competency. So that's what's going on with Rob Wood. He did have his expert look at the case, and they did say, well, I guess it's okay. They couldn't find a lot of fault with it. So that is what's happening there. Sorry, got all my tabs open because I'm watching for this proceeding. Should be taking place in about 15 minutes, a little bit less than that. So, yeah, Rob Wood did have an expert. He did bring the expert forward. The expert examined the report from the court-appointed expert and said, yeah, we can't find anything wrong with this. So that's why he withdrew the contest to that. And now we'll just proceed with treatment. So it's a little bit frustrating. I know. I get it. But let's trust Judge Boyce on this one to do the right thing. If her having 90 days worth of treatment restores her to competency and the case proceeds, and this is not an issue she can bring out later for appeal, I'm great with that. I'm absolutely great with that. So we will just go forward. Let's see. Chad Daybell's first book. Let's see. Just reading chat. So I want to catch up. Yeah, the court proceeding has not begun yet. I will be streaming it as soon as it starts, either from Nate Eaton at East Idaho News. We have permission to stream his feed as long as we have his logo on the screen, which I will do. And it might be on Judge Boyce's channel, so I'm checking both of them. As soon as it starts, we'll have it. So what do you guys all think about Lori being incompetent? I know it seems to be about, I would say 60-40, with 60% of people thinking she's absolutely faking it and 40% saying, yeah, I think she's got some issues. She might actually be incompetent. I'm kind of 50-50. I'm just going to go with Judge Boyce. When I can't make up my mind, go with the judge and trust what he's saying right now. So, but yeah, she will have to stand trial. If she's incompetent, they'll do the thing. After 90 days, they'll reevaluate. If she is still incompetent, judging by the doctors who she's in the care of, then she will go for another round of treatment. So it could go on for a while. It certainly could, but a lot of people say faking it. Some says 50-50. She is a manipulator. Gary, you're right. We have a long history of her being incredibly vindictive and manipulative, and so yeah, there's people saying she's faking it. They have a good reason to think that. And I know, but I will definitely just go with Judge Boyce because maybe he knows something. We haven't seen her. We haven't talked to her. There could quite be something wrong. But Chris says, I think she's faking it, but also as mad as a hatter. So who knows? Yeah, that's kind of the problem. We know that she's got some issues. We'll say the word issues. So yeah, but she could still be manipulating and faking it on top of that. So goodness, I do not envy the job of the psychologists and psychiatrists who will be seeing her care. Good luck to them. Not going to be easy. Let's see. Yes, one less reason for an appeal later. Yep, definitely. You hope more charges are coming for others. I agree. I've been saying that for a very long time. There's delay in her guilt. Also, Chad didn't wish to have trials together. I'm not sure what your comment means. I'm sorry. I do fully expect to see John Pryor file a motion for severance. Remember, we were going to have a hearing today about the change of venue and possibly other things such as a motion for severance. But now all of that is on hold because of the new charges. And now there are technically 4 cases. There's Lori's case on the conspiracy to conceal. There's Chad's case on the conspiracy to conceal and destroy evidence, and concealing and destroying evidence. So he's got those 4 charges there. But now there's Lori's case on the murders and Chad's case on the murders, but also Lori's misdemeanor case out of Madison County. So there's 5 cases running concurrently for these 2 people. Is that all going to be mushed into one giant case? That'd probably be easier. I don't know how it's going to happen. We have to wait and see. But now with everything of Lori's on hold, there's a stay and a suspension in her case while this competency issue is dealt with. That complicates things. It really does. So we'll see what happens there. Didn't she go through a long court case with Joseph Ryan? Yes, she did. Yes, she definitely did. And there was a lot of issues with that psychologically. Some of the people say she was malingering. Some say she was giving false statements and making the kids say things. And it was really, really messy. But what it showed is that she understood the court proceeding, and she was manipulating things. So, but then again, that was a long time ago, right? Just because she was competent then doesn't mean she's competent right now. So, yeah. But it certainly shows a pattern in history of manipulation and behavior like that. Very toxic behavior. So, let's see. I wonder what Chad thinks about Lori's incompetence. That's a good question, Beth. I think if I were Chad, I'd be like, this is my time to whip up that plea deal. Say whatever you want about Lori. She's incompetent. She can't defend what I say about her. La, la, la. Could you see Chad coming out? It was all Lori. Haha. She's incompetent. He. Plea deal. But I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I really think they are going to push this I'm not guilty thing. Let's go to trial. I wouldn't do that, but that's just me. All right. We're getting a feed from the court. Let me get that on your screen. This should be starting momentarily. Remember, when I share the video from the court, I can only make it so loud. All right. So you will have to put your volume up, put some headphones on, do what you got to do, but I can only make it so loud from my end. Okay, so get ready. Turn your volume up. As soon as it starts, I'll make it full screen. I'll mute myself, and we will watch it. And then we'll see what happens. And honestly, I really hope he is not smiling and laughing. Not today. Not today of all days. A year ago today was a devastating day. Can you imagine? I mean, you can. You've seen documentaries, watching the family when they heard the news, and hearing from the detectives on the stand at Chad's preliminary hearing the day that they found those children's remains. This is not the day for Chad to go chuckling and yucking it up in court like he's buddies with the judge or something. This is not the day for that. I hope he doesn't do it. But I think he's dumb enough to do it. Like Language of Horses, he has no shame. He does not have any shame. You're absolutely right. He doesn't seem to think anything's really wrong. Goodness. So it's now or never for Chad to negotiate a plea deal. Yeah, Monica, that's what I was thinking too. Yep, there are family in the courtroom. Garth is in court sitting behind the defendant's table. Have some thoughts on that, but we'll deal with Garth another day. Oh, his attorney should advise him. Yes, you would think. Colby's in the courtroom. Yeah, we should see them on the screen. I can't imagine how hard this must be for Colby to be sitting there in this courtroom, looking at Chad, knowing what happened just 1 year ago today. That's when his brother and sister were found in that guy's backyard. I don't know how Colby can sit there and not leap across the courtroom. I don't know if I could do that. So send your thoughts to Colby to get him through this, and all the other family. I believe Kay and Larry are in the courtroom, and send everything you got that they can get through this. This is not going to be easy. Even though today's hearing should be short, should be a reading of the charges, entering of the plea, scheduling of conferences, blah, 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 done. It should be short, but it's still, can you imagine sitting there and having to be calm and respectful and quiet and, I don't know how they can do that. Brennan Tube says, I wonder how many people are watching this virtually. That's a good question. I bet there are a lot. I really do. This is a big deal. So it should be starting any minute. Please send all of your love and light and good vibes to the family so they can get through this, and this is our first big step, because the last arraignment last year was just for conspiracy to conceal evidence. We're all like, what? Where are the murder charges? We've been asking for a year. Where are the murder charges? Now we've got them. This is the first step to Chad facing justice for the murders of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. So, good. Finally. It's going to be a long time. We have everything we've been through the last year, all these court filings that we've been talking about and arguing about and reading for the last year. Now that starts all over again for these charges. It's going to be a long time, but we are so much closer. We're so much closer than we were a year ago. So maybe a year ago from now, or a year ahead from now, maybe it'll be done. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to go to trial till next year, but we're on our way. We're on our way. So, yep, at least, yeah, I do believe that there are more to come. Algo, absolutely. Absolutely believe it. Yep. Prayers for Colby and Kay and Larry, everyone in the courtroom. And Payna, good morning. Thank you for your messages. You've been so uplifting lately. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you're here, Ann. Hopefully they aren't doing a sidebar again. They might, just for some housekeeping things, but it should start pretty quick. I mean, this is the arraignment. This isn't a great big hearing. It's not a prelim. It's nothing like that. It's just the arraignment. So it should be quick and to the point. Why doesn't Chad just portal out of there? That's a good question. You know, these people in their portals, you'd think they would. So maybe the reality of the situation is starting to dawn upon them. They don't actually have portals. Hello, you know. Makes you wonder if Melanie G has a deal mate. Yeah, I've wondered about that quite a lot. I don't think she does. So, maybe she has lost it from killing her kids. Maybe thinking about it and having dreams about it maybe pushed her over the edge. That's possible. You know, it is possible that we may get to release the 18-11 and talk about the actual findings. I don't think so, but maybe it would be good to see the actual report. That would be kind of nice. Is Melanie Gibb there? I don't think Melanie Gibb is there today. That would not be a very smart thing for her to do. But she could be. She makes some unusual choices. I'll say that. Very unusual choices. Let's see. I do think Chad's kids are victims as well. Monica, you know, Chad's kids, that's a sticky topic. And Payna, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. All right. There's a lot of comments coming up in chat about Garth. I know some things were said on the internet about Garth recently. I'm not sure how I personally feel about them. I have some thoughts. I've said, remember when we found out about the Dodge Dakota and that was Garth's truck? I'd said some things like, that's something to look at. But I don't want to get into the context of what was said because at this point it's a rumor, you know, and it's pretty inflammatory. But yeah, so let's just leave the Garth thing where it is for now and we'll see what comes out. Garth is one of Chad's sons. Chad has 5 children, I believe 5 children. Emma, Garth, Seth, I can't remember all the names, but you know, they're impacted by this. I have some mixed feelings about some of Chad's kids and how they've behaved along this way. Certainly Emma and Joseph. Joseph is Emma's husband. They've done some things that were questionable as far as their behavior, their reaction to this news. Didn't paint them in a very favorable light, but they're also dealing with some stuff, you know, so I'm not gonna harp on Chad's kids. I can't imagine what it might be like to have my dad accused of killing my mom and the children of his brand new wife showing up in the backyard. But anyway, the one thing I've never found out about the case is if Chad's wife Tammy was in on all the craziness or was she pretty normal. I don't think I ever could believe that Tammy was in on it. I don't think so. I don't believe she was. I don't know what would convince me she was because I don't think she was at all. I think she was normal. She was a mom. She was raising her kids. She was trying to work as a book editor. She was working at the school, living a pretty normal life, she thought, you know, until all of this happened. I don't think Tammy was in on it at all. I think she was murdered. And I think she was murdered because she was in the way of what Chad and Lori wanted. Their happy little marriage, their happy little mission to lead the 144,000, and Tammy was in the way, and they eliminated that blockage. You know, I think that's how cold they were about it, you know, so yeah, I think Tammy got caught up in their insanity and paid the ultimate price. So that's why finally seeing murder charges for Tammy was such a relief. such relief, because we've been questioning for over a year. What happened to Tammy? They said it was natural causes, but it doesn't look like it. That's too suspicious. There's too many things added up that said that's not a natural thing. So now we know for sure it definitely was not. Well, we can't say definitely, but the state believes that murder charges are warranted in Tammy's case. So there you go. Just refreshing. We haven't missed anything yet. It has not started. As soon as it's live, it'll be on your screen. So, yeah, finally we have murder charges for Tammy. So that is excellent. Excellent. We've all thought about that. And, it's one of those hard cases where we really don't want it to, say, well, they murdered Charles, they murdered Tammy, they murdered Alex, they murdered Joe. But how can you not? How can you look at this case logically and think these are all just natural, coincidental deaths? Well, certainly not Charles. We know he was shot. There's no question there. But I don't think these are all, unconnected natural deaths. No, not for a second. So seeing the murder charges was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Oh, let's see. She listened to him when he said he believed her beloved deceased grandmother told him she needed to stop playing a video game. Yeah, well, that was her husband. So, those Facebook games, let me tell you, they can be problems. I spent a lot of money on Farmville in my day. My husband talked to me about it too. So, yeah. I needed a coffee drink for today. This is too early for me. I am not a morning type person. It'd be nice if these were like, 9, 10 o'clock at night. Oh, goodness. All right, just checking on chat. All right, we are still waiting for the court. I really would like to see this now. So they could be dealing with some, just housekeeping, as Judge Boyce likes to call it. So, yes, Tammy was a victim. If anyone in chat is insinuating that Tammy was not a victim, please stop. Please don't do that. If you want to do that, go do that somewhere else. We're not doing that here. No. Let's keep focused here, okay? Hello, Kristen and company. How are you doing? We haven't talked in so long. Really good to see you here. I'm happy you're here on this, unfortunately, very sad anniversary. This is not a happy day, but I'm so glad to see you. Hi, Darlene. I'm glad you're here. Could Chad do a plea today? I expect Chad to plead not guilty today. So there's that. He could plead guilty. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I'm sure he will enter his plea today. And that's it. Why no closed caption option? I don't know, Marion. I don't know how YouTube does that with live streams. So I don't know. Let's see. It does not matter if Chad's kids are brainwashed. I just think the big scheme, they will not influence any of this. Who cares what they think? Let them be. Yeah, I can see that. Victim bashing is absolutely not fair to the person. No, we do not allow victim bashing here. So anyone, if you're trying that, you're probably going to get blocked or deleted. So there's that. I think Alex was in Chad's house the night Tammy died. I kind of do too. I mean, we have that report from the new documents from the new charges that say Alex was in a parking lot 2.5 miles away the night that Tammy died. Okay, well, what about before and after he was in the parking lot? Was he at Chad's house? They don't tell us that. Doesn't mean they don't know, but they don't tell us. But doesn't that kind of sound like he was probably giving them a visit? It does. We're going to have to find out when that information is released in court, but yeah. Goodness. How many times today will Pryor say, quite frankly, Your Honor? I don't think he'll say that. I think this is going to be a very short, straightforward thing. Like, read the charges, and he'll probably waive the reading of the charges, so I don't have to read them all. The judge may read them anyway, as we've seen several other times. And then Chad will enter his plea. They'll set a new date, and that'll be the end of that. Janine says, CC not on. Closed caption not on for this on YouTube. I don't control that. I don't know how to turn it on or turn it off. I've never seen a button that lets me do that. So I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on with the captioning. People ask me, where is Jess? That's my question. No, Jess had a doctor's appointment today. She's okay, just a normal checkup-y thing. She's fine, but she is out and about, so she can't be here. I admit I feel a little bit naked without Jess with me. I'm a little stressed, a little anxious without her. So, but she's around. But there she is. She's in chat. She's here-ish. She's paying attention to chat, even though she can't be on camera. But she's not far. Jess is not far. She's certainly here in spirit with us. Maybe she's here from beyond the veil. Yeah, she's here with us. Carol's Cottage can't hear me. Okay. If anyone else can't hear me, please say something in chat. Pretty sure everyone can. All right. Yep. Pretty in Camo has the question of the day. This is something we always get when we have a hearing. What color of red will John Pryor be today? I'm going to put him on, 5 or 6 on the redness scale. He's probably not having a good day. So there. Oh, goodness. All right. You can hear me. Okay, good. Excellent. All right. So Nate just tweeted that they're meeting in judges' chambers. Yep. There's... I don't want to whip you guys into a frenzy, but why would they have to have a meeting in judges' chambers before an arraignment just for Chad? This should have nothing to do with Lori or Mark Means. It should just be the arraignment. What's going on? Do you think it's possible? All right, let's take a poll in chat. How many of you think it's possible that we're going to get a guilty plea? And that's what they're finalizing in judges' chambers. Can you imagine? I'm not sure how I feel about that. On one hand, a guilty plea would be the best thing ever because that's it. Done. Life in prison without parole. Don't have to put the family through a trial. Boom. There. On the other hand, I'm kind of like, I'm pretty sure the state's going to pursue the death penalty. And as much as I say I hate the death penalty, I might feel a little bit bad if they don't in this case. So there's that. But yeah, why else would they be in judges' chambers? Do you think John Pryor got the idea that, hey, this incompetency lark worked for Lori, so let me try it for Chad? Possibly. Quite possibly. That would piss me off. So could it be that? Could it be a plea deal that they're ironed out? Or could it just be scheduling and stuff like that they're working out? Who knows? It could be any of those things. It could be that they're arguing with Pryor about when to do the change of venue and all that. They could be discussing between the state and prosecution about combining all the charges into one case, even though I don't think that would have to be behind closed doors. So I don't know. I have no idea what they would be talking about. No idea. But I'm feeling a little like, right now. Before it's like, okay, we're going to see Chad. He's going to plead not guilty. They'll read the charges, and then we go home. But now I'm like, why would they be in judges' chambers? Makes me a little nervous. He could be turning on Lori, could be flipping. If he was going to flip, then that would be part of a plea deal discussion. He would not flip on Lori unless he was going to get something from the state, which could simply be, we agree not to pursue the death penalty. Maybe guilty on some charges, but not all. Angel, absolutely. They could be renegotiating the charges. Could be all kinds of stuff. But, at this point, after everything that we've been through the last year, for him to come out now and be like, I plead, guilty plea deal. It's like, you word I can't say without getting demonetized. Maybe, yep, Estelle, that's what I was thinking. Maybe Chad suddenly is feeling too mentally incompetent to stand trial. I was thinking that John Pryor could be like, hey, that worked like a charm. Let me try that for Chad. Just come on, man. DJ says, I'm curious what everyone thinks about the latest news without her bonding with Chad. Okay, so maybe the reason for her incompetency is because she's been without Chad for so long? Maybe. It seems to say from the filings that we read this morning that Lori is unable to help her attorney in her defense. So why? Why is that? The order does say that she's not dangerously mentally ill, which I'm like, well, that's up for debate. But, so who knows what's going on. Pryor can't afford Chad to be sick. Bad feeling here. Pryor's up to something. Sammy, that's kind of what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like this cannot be good. This cannot be good. Those two, Pryor and Chad in judges' chambers before an arraignment, that can't be a good thing. It's just an arraignment. There's no reason for this to be delayed or housekeeping to have to take place before it. So I don't know. The Swing said, I'm not good at American court stuff, but if it goes to trial, is there always a jury in every state? Not always. The defendant does have the right to ask for a bench trial, which means the only person hearing the evidence and making the determination is the judge, or they could go for a jury trial. There's several different types of juries and all that. In general, you will get a 12-person jury that will hear a case like this, but there are different options that are available. So yeah. Shauna says, Pryor doesn't concede. They're not going to plead guilty. Yeah, I agree. Oh, that was MCC. Lori's out of money. She's never been this broke. Roxy Cole says, she's starting to feel sick about it. Me too. I wasn't nervous till somebody said that Nate said they're in judges' chambers. I'm like, And the fact that it's taking so long, this hearing should have begun 15 minutes ago. So, yep, I'm a little nervous. Let me check my tweet deck. Let's see what else Nate is saying. Nate is actually there in person. So let's see what he's saying. The prosecutors and John Pryor are meeting in judges' chambers. Garth is in the courtroom, sitting behind the defendant's table. All right, that is Garth's dad. So there you go. Kay Woodcock and Colby Ryan are there. Chad, a few members of the public are here. Daybell is currently meeting with his attorney in a separate room. The hearing should be short. Yep, Nate, I agree. This should be very, very, very short. But why it's not happened yet, I don't know. If there was a plea deal, why would that not happen before this date? See, Blue, that's what I thought. If they were negotiating a plea deal for Chad, I think it would have been wrapped up before we got to court this morning. They would have been going over it the last few days. So maybe they are just presenting that to the judge right now. I hope not. I mean, I kind of hope so, but I hope not, because I really think the state could pursue the death penalty and get that conviction. I do. So plea deal, But then again, if Chad is coming forward with the information that's needed to bring closure and justice, then okay. So I am so 50-50 on a plea deal. I really am. I can't tell which way I want that to go. So we shall see what happens with that. Oh. Yeah, please send all of your energies, good vibes, light, love, and support to the family. Kay is in the courtroom. Colby's in the courtroom. This cannot be easy. Cannot be easy. I can't imagine sitting in that courtroom, in that proximity to Chad Daybell, and having to sit there and be like a calm, behaved person. So they have a lot of strength just to be able to do that. Emily, thank you for the super chat. Emily asked, can a plea be offered before arraignment? I'm not even sure. I think there could be, because they could be negotiating the charges, or I'll plead to this charge but not that charge, and that kind of stuff. So, deep. Let's see. I hear you on the 50-50 about the plea deal. Yeah. See, like with the Chris Watts case, all right, we had followed that a lot. We followed that case very closely. And when he pled guilty, yes, there was an immense sigh of relief. Like, okay, he'll be in prison for life. No parole. Done. Okay, we're not going for the death penalty, but whatever. He's in jail for life. That felt good, right? But on the other hand, it's like you want that trial. You want that proof. You want that, go for the death penalty. Push it. Do it. You've got all the evidence. Don't let him off the hook. But if I have issues with the death penalty, but in this case, I kind of hope that the state would push for it and be like, no, we don't want your plea deal. We have all the evidence we need. That's a big risk. That is a big risk because all it takes is one juror with reasonable doubt. That's a big risk. So if they can get him in jail for the rest of his life, there's no appeals if you plead guilty. That's a really good deal. It saves the state a lot of time and money, and justice is done. He'll never be free. He's not going to give him a plea deal where he goes home in 10 years. No, the plea deal will be either death penalty or life in prison without parole. So, it would not be the worst thing in the world. It would spare the family a trial, would save the state a lot of money. Justice would be done. So all in all, it's not a bad thing. But, yeah. Yeah, the judge is not involved in discussing the plea agreement, but they could be bringing it to the judge right now, or something, or who knows? Maybe Pryor is going to try and push this incompetency thing. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine him coming right now and be like, Your Honor, I want to lay some foundation. My client is also incompetent. Ha ha ha. Don't even do it, Pryor. Don't even do it. Quite frankly, Judge, I don't have everything I need yet. Possibly. Yeah, they are still in chambers. I'm watching the tweet deck to see what the heck's going on. And don't forget that early this morning, for anyone who's joined us late, the judge has committed Lori Vallow to a mental health care facility. She is now going to begin the process of restoring her to competency, which will involve various therapies. Could be pharmacological, could be therapeutic. We'll have to see, but they have 90 days to try and get her to competency. So, following the criminal procedure rules, a plea deal should go after the arraignment. Okay, arraignment is Rule 10, pleas are Rule 11. All right, so maybe that's not what's happening. Good. I didn't want to think that that's what was happening. So who knows what they're doing in judges' chambers right now. I can't help but think it's going to be a race between Lori getting medicated and singing like a canary. Chad has to be sweating it. That's a good point, Lori. Because Chad may be thinking, oh, if they do restore her to competency and this therapy stuff really does help, she's going to spill all the beans. And then Chad's probably in a lot of trouble. So he could be very, very nervous about that. Good. Let him be. Let's see. They will need to deprogram her. Gail, I totally agree. I hope that whatever psychiatric care she's under, they take into the fact that there could be a lot of brainwashing and cult deprogramming that needs to be done. I hope so. Let's see. Please check out Brenda Edwards' post about Mel in contempt. Melanie's in contempt of court? What's going on? I don't know who Brenda Edwards is. She say something, chat. Oh, here we go.
System. It's
here we
also
go.
being live streamed on the court's
All right, I'll be quiet now.
channel for public availability of the hearing. In addition, in order to allow public access, we do have limited seating here, and that's consistent with our Supreme Court's operating order for social distancing. So we do have people in the courtroom as well, pursuant to that order. Mr. Daybell, as you know, I'm Judge Boyce. I'm the district judge for Fremont County, and I've been assigned to preside over this case. In a few minutes, I'll arraign you on criminal charges that have been brought against you by the state of Idaho, pursuant to an indictment that was issued by a grand jury. Before doing so, I'll explain what will happen at this arraignment and then advise you of your constitutional rights and plea options. If at any time you need to communicate with Mr. Pryor in confidence, please advise me. We can arrange to have the two of you in a separate place outside the record of the court or anyone else and have a personal discussion if you require that during the time of this hearing. In this case, there was an indictment issued by the grand jury on May 25th, 2021, and that indictment sets forth the criminal charges that have been brought against you. The indictment's not evidence, rather it sets forth the criminal charges against you that would be prosecuted by the state of Idaho in this case. Mr. Pryor, have you received a copy of the indictment and reviewed that with your client, Mr. Daybell? Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Pryor. In a moment then, Mr. Daybell, I will advise you of the charges that are pending against you and explain the penalties associated with those charges. Next, I'll discuss, Mr. Pryor, your plea options and rights. The purpose of an arraignment is to have you enter a plea to the charges in the indictment. At the end of the arraignment, then you'll be asked to enter a plea. In that regard, you would have three options. Your first option is that you may enter a plea of not guilty to the charges. If you elect to plead not guilty, then a jury trial and a pretrial conference will be scheduled in this case. Also, by pleading not guilty, you would maintain all of your constitutional rights in this case, which rights were previously explained to you at an initial appearance on May 26, 2021 before the magistrate. Among those rights, you have, I'll go through some of those. You have the right to be presumed innocent. The presumption of innocence is a real and important right which lies at the foundation of our criminal justice system. Therefore, unless you either plead guilty at a later date or the state proves the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt at trial, the presumption of innocence remains in your case. You also have the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of your peers, as well as the right to see, hear, confront, and have your attorney question all witnesses who may be called to testify against you. During the pendency of your case and at trial, you also have the right to be represented by an attorney. As you are in custody, you also have the right to communicate with your attorney at all stages of your case, and reasonable access to communicate with your attorney will be provided throughout these proceedings. At your trial, you would have the right to present evidence in your defense and the right to the subpoena power of this court to compel the attendance of witnesses to testify on your behalf. And finally, if you plead not guilty, you will retain the right to remain silent and exercise the privilege against compulsory self-incrimination. This means that you cannot be required to testify against yourself. However, you may voluntarily take the witness stand at trial if you so choose, but you cannot be compelled to do so. If you decide not to testify in your own behalf, then the prosecuting attorney could make no remarks about your failure to testify and cannot imply to the jury that exercising your constitutional right to remain silent is any indication of your guilt. The second option you would have today is to enter no plea at all. If you decide to do that, the court would enter a plea of not guilty for you, and you'd continue to maintain all of the rights that I've previously explained. And your third option at this arraignment is that you may plead guilty to any or all of the charges. However, it is important that you understand that if you do plead guilty, you would automatically waive rights, including rights under the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, as well as similar rights contained in the Idaho Constitution. In other words, if you decide to plead guilty, you'd waive your right to a trial. There'd be no trial in your case, and you'd no longer be presumed innocent. The state would no longer have the burden of proving the case against you beyond a reasonable doubt. By pleading guilty, you would also give up your 6th Amendment right to confront your accusers and cross-examine any witnesses against you, and give up your right to offer evidence of your own behalf in response to the state's case against you. You would also waive any defenses you have to the charges contained in the indictment, including any claims that there is a defect in the state of Idaho's case against you, or that you've been treated unfairly by the court. Give up also your 5th Amendment right to remain silent and the privilege against self-incrimination. And if you were to plead guilty, you would also be required to testify under oath concerning the facts of the alleged offenses in this case to allow me to determine whether or not there's a factual basis for your plea, and whether the plea would be made knowingly, freely, and voluntarily, and to determine whether or not you fully understand the consequences of that plea. Finally, you are advised, if you decided to plead guilty, any testimony that you give while under oath concerning the alleged offenses could and would likely be used against you at a later trial if I were to not accept your plea for some reason, or if you later withdrew your plea. It is very important you understand all the rights and options I just explained to you. Before we go any further then with this proceeding, Mr. Daybell, do you have any questions on any of those rights I've just explained to you? Very well. Mr. Daybell, in this case, then you were brought before this court to answer for the indictment filed in this case, which alleges you've committed serious crimes in that 8 felony charges have been filed in the grand jury's indictment. In that indictment, let me ask you a question, Mr. Pryor, do you have that before you? Copy of the indictment? All right. Is the defendant's name, Mr. Daybell, spelled and listed correctly on that indictment on the caption? All right, thank you. At this time then, I will go through the charges that are listed in the indictment and the penalties for each charge. After doing that, then, Mr. Pryor, I'll ask your client how he pleads. So I'll read through the list of charges first, and then I'll ask for the plea after that. Then the indictment that was filed on May 25th, in count 1, charges Mr. Daybell the offenses of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception, both felony counts under Idaho Code 18-1701, 18-4003A, 18-24031, 18-24034A, 18-24071B3. The count in count 1 names Tylee Ryan as the victim on the murder charge, and that count carries a penalty on the murder charge of it is punishable by death or imprisonment for life, and it provides that if the death penalty is not pursued by the state, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. The grand theft portion of that charge has a penalty of up to 14 years of prison and a fine of up to $5,000 and possible restitution. That's a summary of those charges, and you've waived the reading of the charges. So let me ask you on that count 1, Mr. Daybell, do you understand the charge and those possible penalties? Okay. The next count in the indictment is count 2. That is a count of first-degree murder under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-4002, 18-4003, subsection A, and 18-4004. And that count names Tylee Ryan as the victim. The possible penalty or punishment for that count is by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. You understand that charge and the possible penalties? Count 3 of the indictment charges conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. Those are felonies under the same code sites that were previously listed under count 1. That count names Joshua Jackson Vallow, also known as JJ Vallow, as the named victim in that count. And the penalty for those charges on the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder is punishable by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. On the charge of grand theft by deception, that would have a penalty of up to 14 years in prison, a fine of up to $5,000. You understand the charge in count 3 and those possible penalties, Mr. Daybell? Sure. Very well. Count 4 of the indictment charges you with first-degree murder, a felony under the statute previously cited in the other counts also. That count names JJ Vallow as the victim, and again is punishable by death or imprisonment for life. If the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of up to 10 years. You understand count 4 and the possible penalties, Mr. Daybell? All right, the next count listed in the indictment is count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. That count names Tammy Daybell as the named victim. It's charged again under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-4003, subsection A, and 18-1701. And that count is also punishable by death or imprisonment for life. And if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration 10 years. Do you understand the charge in count 5 and the possible penalties? Count 6 of the indictment is a charge of first-degree murder. That names Tamara Tammy Daybell as the victim. It's charged under Idaho Code 18-4001, 18-204, and 18-4003 subsection A. That count also is punishable by death or imprisonment for life, provided that if the death penalty is not pursued, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. Do you understand count 6 and those possible penalties, Mr. Daybell? All right, count 7 of the indictment is not a charge against you, it's a charge against a co-conspirator. Count 8 of the indictment charges you, Mr. Daybell, with the crime of insurance fraud, which is a felony under Idaho Code Section 41-293. That is a felony that carries up to 15 years in prison and a fine of up to $15,000 plus restitution. You understand that charge and those possible penalties? All right, count 9 is also a charge of insurance fraud under that same statute. It carries the same penalty I just mentioned in count 8, which again is 15 years of prison and a $15,000 fine plus restitution. You understand that charge and those possible penalties? All right, that is a summary then of the charges that have been filed against you and the penalties. I would also note those penalties in each of the counts could be ordered to be served either concurrently, meaning running together, or consecutively. And so do you understand those charges could also run consecutively in those different counts, Mr. Daybell? All right, at this time then, having gone through the counts and the possible penalties, at this point, I would ask your client how he intends to plea. Before I do that, Mr. Pryor, do you have any questions for the court or anything you need to discuss with your client before I ask for the plea? All right. Thank you, Mr. Pryor. I will go through them then individually again. On count 1 of the indictment, Mr. Daybell, how do you plead? Enter the not guilty plea on count 1. On count 2, how do you plead? On count 3, how do you plead? On count 4, how do you plead? On count 5, how do you plead? On count 6, how do you plead? On count 8, how do you plead? And on count 9, how do you plead? Very well. Not guilty pleas are entered as to all the counts in the indictment. At this time, normally we would discuss a trial setting. I talked to counsel and chambers before we started, and given the nature of the case, we've determined that we'll set a scheduling conference 2 weeks from today to get a trial set. Does your client agree to a scheduling conference in 2 weeks and move to a trial setting right now, Mr. Pryor? Let's not discuss that. All right, very well. Do you understand then we'll set your trial in 2 weeks and we're doing that today, Mr. Daybell? Okay. So we'll hold that hearing on June 23rd. Council, any suggestions on time? I'm thinking probably just in the morning at 9:30.
That works for the state as well, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, I'll set the scheduling conference for June 23rd at 9:30 a.m. We will conduct that hearing by Zoom. That will not be a live in-person proceeding. And at that time, we will get the matter set for a trial on these counts. I believe that concludes the matters we need to bring up on this case this morning. Then, is there anything further from the state on the case today?
Nothing further from the state at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. Anything further from the defense, Mr. Pryor? You may. Thank you, counsel. That will conclude the hearing and we'll be in recess.
All right, there we go. My goodness. So, all right, that was the hearing. It is over. Can y'all hear me? Did I turn my microphone back on? Let me make sure. Yes, I think you can. All right, Chad. I know you guys couldn't hear Chad and John Pryor. I could hear them every once in a while, but that mic was cutting out a lot. It was really bad. And we all know that John Pryor does not like speaking into a microphone. But Chad entered a plea of not guilty on all of the charges. There will be a scheduling conference in 2 weeks from today. That will be on Zoom. We'll cover it live here. There you go. He has now formally been arraigned, 8 felony charges. So there we go. All right. He pled not guilty. That was totally expected. Thank goodness all the stuff that happened, when we were worried about what was going on in judges' chambers was who knows what it was, but it was not anything crazy. So there we go. Oh, man. Yeah, John Pryor does have a microphone phobia. Absolutely. So what happens next? There was a hearing scheduled on the 16th for Lori Vallow's incompetency, her fitness hearing, but that's probably not going to happen now. There's no point. The judge has ordered her to be committed. Now she begins the restoration of competency, therapy, treatment, whatever you want to call it. Chad will hear from John Pryor again in 2 weeks for the scheduling conference. So we'll carry that live. And until then, there you go. I have seen some rumors flying through chat about Melanie Gibb possibly being charged with contempt of court for not answering the subpoena. I have no idea what's going on with that. There's nothing that's been officially released. I've just seen rumors in chat. So don't run with that yet. Let's wait till we get something from the court, something official, to find out what happened. But certainly I'm going to be looking at that because, that's one of my things, saying Miss Melanie Gibb held accountable for her knowledge and or possible involvement in these crimes. So I will be paying attention to that as soon as I find out officially what's happening. If anything is, I'll let you know. But I have some work to get done today. I'm a very important appointment happening very soon, so I need to run and go get ready for that. So please remember to send all of your love, light, good vibes, all of your positive energy to the family right now. They really need it. All right, send it out there. Hold them in your prayers. Hold them in your thoughts. Lift them up as they go through this process. This is going to be a long, nasty, ugly trial. There's going to be hundreds of more hearings we're going to have to sit through and court filings to talk about. But as everything happens, I will bring it to you right here. So please stay tuned to the channel. All right. Thank you, everyone, for the super chats. Amy DLV, thank you for that. I really appreciate the support. And there we go. Justin Lum has court document that Mr. Means filed about Melanie Gibb. Is that the subpoena? Or I don't see anything on Justin's feed about Melanie Gibb today. So, but I will look into that because I really want to know. All right. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Remember, tomorrow night at 7 p.m., Jess and I will have our narcissism live stream for channel members and Patreons. It's always a really good discussion. We have something exciting planned for tomorrow night, so hopefully we'll see you there. Saturday night on Jess's channel, we're doing Hearsay. Please subscribe to Jess Nelson, Mistrial. She has a great channel, and we're trying to get her to 1,000 subs. So there you go. See you for Toxic Bliss tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. And all right, we are another step forward in the path for justice. So let's take a moment and be happy and just, we're getting there. It's going to take a while, but guys, we are getting there. Every day is another step forward. So I will talk to you all soon. Take care out there. Stay safe and be good to people. Bye for now.